You sit there, staring at another unfulfilled promise to yourself. The fitness program abandoned after 2 weeks. The business idea still just notes in your phone. The relationship still broken. The finances still in shambles. And the voice in your head delivers its familiar verdict. I just don't have enough willpower. But what if everything you've been told about willpower is a lie? What if the greatest minds in history, people who transformed nothing into empires, who rewrote the rules of achievement, knew a truth that's been hidden from you? Napoleon Hill, after studying 500 of the world's most successful people for over 25 years, discovered something shocking. Willpower isn't what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. There's something deeper, more fundamental, that determines whether you'll break through or remain trapped in the prison of your unfulfilled potential. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the real reason you're stuck. The invisible force that's been sabotaging your efforts while you've been busy blaming yourself. This isn't just another motivational piece. This is the awakening that separates those who merely dream from those who actually transform their lives. Because if you don't understand what I'm about to share, you'll continue watching your true potential slip through your fingers as the precious years of your life tick away. You've been lied to your entire life. The idea that success belongs to those with the most willpower is perhaps the most dangerous myth, keeping you trapped in mediocrity. Look around you. The world is full of people with tremendous willpower who remain stuck, frustrated, and unfulfilled. They force themselves to wake up early. They push through painful workouts. They white-knuckle their way through difficult tasks. Yet, despite all this willpower, they find themselves in the same place year after year, wondering why their Herculean efforts aren't producing the results they desperately desire. Napoleon Hill discovered something profound after interviewing Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and hundreds of other world changers. These titans didn't rely primarily on willpower. They understood that lasting success comes from a completely different source. They recognized that willpower is like a muscle that fatigues with use. No matter how strong your willpower is, it will eventually fail you if it's your primary tool for change. What separates the 1% of achievers from everyone else isn't superior willpower. It's a fundamentally different operating system for success. While others exhaust themselves fighting against their own nature, the truly successful align themselves with psychological forces so powerful that achievement becomes the path of least resistance. Think about this. How many times have you forced yourself to start something new, only to see your motivation evaporate within weeks or even days? How many New Year's resolutions have you made, fueled by intense determination, only to abandon them by February? This isn't a personal failing. It's evidence that you've been using the wrong tool for the job. The truth is that willpower was never designed to be your primary engine for success. It's a limited, emergency resource, not a sustainable strategy. And until you understand the real mechanism behind lasting achievement, you'll continue exhausting yourself while watching others surpass you with what appears to be effortless success. What would change in your life if you stopped relying on the finite resource of willpower and instead tapped into a force so powerful that it pulls you toward your goals rather than requiring you to push yourself toward them? Are you ready to discover what Napoleon Hill found to be the true driver of extraordinary achievement? Your mind is currently living in a prison it cannot see. The walls aren't made of concrete, but of beliefs so deeply embedded in your subconscious that you don't even recognize them as beliefs. You mistake them for reality itself. Every time you've tried to change your life using willpower alone, you've been fighting against these invisible walls. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and one foot firmly on the brake. No amount of willpower can overcome a subconscious mind programmed for limitation. Napoleon Hill called this the major cause of failure, the misalignment between your conscious desires and your subconscious programming. Your conscious mind might desperately want success, wealth, and fulfillment. But if your subconscious is programmed with beliefs like money is the root of all evil, rich people are dishonest, or I don't deserve success, then your internal operating system will sabotage you every single time. Consider Thomas Edison. When his laboratory burned to the ground, destroying years of work and irreplaceable records, his response wasn't despair. Within hours of the fire, he told his son, "We'll start rebuilding tomorrow." The next day, at age 67, he began reconstructing what he had lost. 3 weeks later, he delivered his first phonograph. Edison's subconscious wasn't programmed with limitation. It was aligned with possibility. Your subconscious mind is like the operating system of a computer. It runs silently in the background, determining what's possible within your life. You didn't choose this programming. It was installed during your formative years through the words and actions of authority figures, through traumatic experiences, through cultural messaging, and through misinterpreted events from your past. Every time you've tried to force change through willpower, you've been attempting to override this operating system through sheer force. But your subconscious is vastly more powerful than your conscious will. It processes approximately 20 million environmental stimuli per second, while your conscious mind processes only 40. This is why willpower always loses in the long run. It's outnumbered 500,000 to 1. The breakthrough comes when you stop fighting your subconscious and start reprogramming it. When your subconscious beliefs align with your conscious desires, achievement becomes effortless. You no longer need willpower to force yourself to take action. You're naturally drawn toward behaviors that serve your goals. Are you beginning to see why all your previous attempts at change have fallen short? Are you ready to stop exhausting yourself, fighting against your own mind, and instead learn how to align your entire being toward success? The choice is yours. Continue believing the willpower myth and remain trapped, or embrace a new understanding that will set you free. Beneath all your actions, beneath all your decisions, beneath all your apparent failures and successes, lies the true driver of your destiny. Your dominant thoughts. Napoleon Hill's most profound discovery was this: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This isn't a motivational platitude, it's a precise description of how your mind creates your reality. Your dominant thoughts, especially those charged with emotion, are automatically accepted by your subconscious mind as commands to be executed. Your thoughts are like seeds planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious. Whatever thoughts you allow to dominate your mind will inevitably manifest in your physical reality. This is the principle that Andrew Carnegie used to build one of the largest steel empires in the world, starting from nothing. It's what allowed Henry Ford to revolutionize manufacturing when everyone told him his ideas were impossible. Most people never activate this principle because their minds are filled with doubt, fear, and limitation. They think predominantly about what they don't want, what might go wrong, or why they can't succeed. And then they wonder why these exact scenarios keep manifesting in their lives. When Hill interviewed the most successful people of his era, he found they shared one common trait. They maintained absolute control over their thoughts. They refused to entertain ideas of failure or limitation. They focused exclusively on their desired outcome with such intensity that their subconscious had no choice but to bring it into reality. William Wrigley Jr. started with $32 and a recipe for soap. Through focused thought and persistence, he built the Wrigley chewing gum empire. When asked why he continued to advertise when his company was already successful, he replied with a question: "How fast do you think this train we're on would continue to run if we disconnected the engine?" His dominant thought, continuous growth, drove his actions and created his reality. Your mind works the same way. The thoughts you consistently focus on become the engine pulling your life in that direction. If your dominant thoughts are of lack, limitation, and past failures, that's precisely where your life will remain stuck. But when you deliberately direct your thoughts toward your desired future with clarity and emotional intensity, you activate a power greater than willpower could ever be. This is why willpower fails. Willpower is trying to force actions that contradict your dominant thought patterns. It's like trying to drive north while your GPS is set to south. No matter how hard you press the gas, you're still heading in the wrong direction. What would happen if, instead of exhausting your willpower, you changed the coordinates in your mental GPS? What if your dominant thoughts were so perfectly aligned with your goals that success became your default destination? This is the transformation that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Are you ready to take control of your thought patterns and harness the true engine of achievement? Or will you continue to let random thoughts, fears, and doubts determine your destiny? There comes a point in every person's life when they must make a fundamental choice: to continue drifting as they have been, or to take absolute command of their mind and their destiny. This is that moment for you. The most critical decision you'll ever make isn't about your career, your relationships, or your location. It's the decision to take full responsibility for the content of your mind, to become the deliberate architect of your thoughts rather than their passive victim. Napoleon Hill documented this decisive moment in the lives of hundreds of successful people. For many, it came during their darkest hour. When are you? Darby's uncle quit gold mining just 3 feet from a massive vein of gold. He learned a lesson he never forgot. Darby went on to become one of the most successful insurance salesmen in America by adopting a simple philosophy: never quit when temporary defeat comes. For others, like Henry Ford, the decisive moment came when they refused to accept the limitations others placed on them. When experts told Ford it was impossible to cast an 8-cylinder engine block in one piece, he simply ordered his engineers to produce it anyway. 6 months passed, nothing. A year, still nothing. But Ford insisted, produce it anyway. Eventually, they did what was impossible, because Ford refused to entertain thoughts of limitation. Your decisive moment is now. Will you continue allowing random thoughts, influenced by your past, by the media, by other people's opinions, to shape your reality? Or will you draw a line in the sand and declare that from this moment forward, you will consciously choose the thoughts that dominate your mind? This isn't about positive thinking as it's commonly understood. It's about mental discipline, the rigorous, consistent control of your thought patterns. It's about refusing to waste mental energy on what you don't want and instead channeling that energy exclusively toward what you do want. When you make this decision with absolute conviction, something remarkable happens. The fog of confusion lifts. The paralysis of fear dissolves. You develop what Hill called a definiteness of purpose that magnetizes your entire being toward your goals. Most people never experience this transformation because they never make this decision with total commitment. They want things to improve, but they're not willing to take radical responsibility for their thought patterns. They continue to think carelessly, reactively, allowing their minds to dwell on problems rather than solutions, on past failures rather than future successes. This decisive moment separates those who achieve greatness from those who merely wish for it. It's the moment when you stop being a passive passenger in your life and take the wheel with absolute determination. What will you choose? Will you continue to drift at the mercy of random thoughts and emotions? Or will you seize control of your mental kingdom and direct it with purpose? Everything in your future hangs on this decision. Make it now. Scattered focus creates scattered results. The mind that attempts to move in multiple directions simultaneously remains stuck in place. Napoleon Hill discovered that every single high achiever he studied organized their entire life around what he called a definite major purpose, a single, clearly defined goal that became the primary focus of their thoughts and actions. This wasn't merely a wish or a vague desire. It was a precise target that obsessed them, that consumed their thinking, that directed their every decision. When Madam C.J. Walker, born to former slaves, decided to become America's first female self-made millionaire, she didn't just wish for success. She defined exactly what she wanted to achieve, by when, and for what purpose. Her definite, major purpose wasn't just to create wealth. It was to solve a specific problem for black women while creating economic opportunities for thousands of sales agents. Every thought, every action aligned with this purpose. Most people fail because they never develop this kind of clarity. Their thoughts and energies are dispersed across dozens of different desires, never concentrating enough power in any one direction to break through resistance. They're like sunlight in winter, spread too thin to generate significant heat. A definite major purpose acts like a lens, focusing your mental and physical energies with such intensity that obstacles melt before them. It filters every decision through a single question. Does this move me toward my purpose or away from it? This elimination of confusion and wasted effort is why those with a definite major purpose accomplish more in a few years than most people do in a lifetime. The moment you define your major purpose with absolute clarity, your subconscious mind begins working 24 hours a day to bring it into reality. It starts noticing resources, opportunities, and connections that were always present but previously invisible to you. Ideas and insights emerge spontaneously. Your mental factory, which had been producing random, often self-defeating thoughts, now has precise blueprints to follow. Edwin C. Barnes appeared at Thomas Edison's laboratory without enough money for a return train ticket, looking shabby and unkempt. But he had a definite major purpose: to become Edison's business partner. Not an employee, not a worker, but a partner. Everyone laughed at his audacity. Years later, after unwavering focus on this single purpose, Barnes became exactly that, Edison's partner in marketing the dictation machine. Your life changes the moment you direct all your mental and physical energies toward one clearly defined target. The scattered approach you've been using, trying to improve every area of your life simultaneously, guarantees continued frustration. Power comes from concentration, from the absolute clarity that eliminates all other options. What is the one goal that, if achieved, would transform every aspect of your life? What is the purpose that could consume your thinking, direct your actions, and focus your energies with laser precision? Defining this with absolute clarity isn't just helpful, it's essential for extraordinary achievement. Will you continue diffusing your energies across countless directions? Or will you summon the courage to choose one definite direction and pursue it with everything you have? The difference between these two approaches is the difference between mediocrity and greatness. Knowledge without emotion is powerless. Clarity without hunger is sterile. Your definite major purpose must be fueled by what Napoleon Hill called a burning desire, an emotional intensity so powerful that giving up becomes impossible. When Hill asked Andrew Carnegie the secret to his success, Carnegie replied, "Put all your eggs in one basket, and then watch that basket." This wasn't just about focus, it was about developing an emotional connection to your goal. So intense that your attention never wavers. Most people fail because their desire is weak. They want better results, but they don't want them badly enough to rearrange their lives, to sacrifice comfort, to persist through repeated failure. Their desire flickers like a candle in the wind, rather than burning like an unquenchable fire. The Wright brothers had no formal education beyond high school. They had no connections. They had no funding. What they had was a desire to fly that consumed them so completely that they were willing to risk their lives repeatedly, to endure ridicule, to persist through failure after failure. Their desire wasn't casual, it was consuming. Look at your own life. What do you want badly enough that you think about it constantly? What goal keeps you up at night, wakes you early in the morning, and dominates your conversation? If nothing comes to mind, you've discovered why achievement has eluded you. Without this emotional intensity, your subconscious has no compelling reason to reorganize your patterns of thought and behavior. Contrast this with Soichiro Honda, who pawned his wife's jewelry to fund his dream of creating motorized bicycles. When his factory was destroyed by bombing during World War II, he collected surplus gasoline cans discarded by U.S. fighters, calling them gifts from President Truman, and used them to rebuild. When an earthquake destroyed his factory again, he immediately rebuilt. His desire to revolutionize transportation wasn't a mild preference. It was an all-consuming obsession. This burning desire transforms obstacles from reasons to quit into challenges to overcome. It transmutes failure from defeat into education. It converts rejection from discouragement into fuel. Without this emotional intensity, willpower will always fail you at the critical moment. Hill discovered that this burning desire has specific qualities. It's positive, focused on what you want to create rather than what you want to avoid. It's precise, attached to a specific outcome rather than a vague improvement. And it's persistent, it doesn't fade after the initial excitement passes. When you combine your definite major purpose with this burning desire, your subconscious mind receives a clear, emotionally charged command that it cannot ignore. It begins reorganizing your perceptions, your ideas, and your actions to align with this dominant obsession. Does your desire for achievement burn so intensely that it consumes your thinking? Are you willing to focus on your goal with such emotional commitment that nothing can dissuade you? Or will you continue with lukewarm wants and wishes that dissipate at the first sign of difficulty? The temperature of your desire determines the altitude of your achievement. What temperature are you currently operating at? And what would happen if you turned up the heat? No great achievement is ever the product of a single mind working in isolation. Behind every extraordinary success is what Napoleon Hill called a mastermind alliance, a group of minds working in perfect harmony toward a shared purpose. When Henry Ford was challenged about his lack of formal education during a libel trial, he pointed to a row of buttons on his desk. "I can press any one of these buttons," he said, "and summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire concerning the business to which I am devoting my life." Ford didn't need to know everything. He needed access to those who did. Most people try to succeed alone. They see asking for help as weakness, collaboration as inefficiency, and sharing credit as diminishing their own glory. This isolated approach guarantees limited results because it confines you to your own knowledge, your own skills, your own perspective, and your own resources. The truth Hill discovered is that power expands exponentially through alliance. When two or more minds unite around a shared purpose, they create a third, more powerful mind, the mastermind, which accesses ideas and solutions unavailable to the individual members alone. Thomas Edison's laboratory was the perfect example of this principle in action. Edison surrounded himself with brilliant minds united by the shared purpose of invention. From this mastermind came the light bulb, the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and over 1,000 other patents. Edison knew that the right combination of minds creates an intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. Your isolation is costing you everything. The challenges that seem insurmountable to you individually become conquerable through the right alliance. The blind spots that repeatedly sabotage your efforts become visible when other perspectives are introduced. The limited resources that restrict your progress multiply when combined with others. Helen Keller, deaf and blind from infancy, achieved extraordinary things not through isolated effort but through her alliance with Anne Sullivan. Together, they accessed possibilities that neither could have reached alone. Their minds, working in harmony, created achievements that defied all expectations. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Their habits, beliefs, and ambitions are shaping yours. Their limitations are becoming your limitations. Their vision or lack thereof is influencing your vision. This is not coincidence, it's the mastermind principle working in reverse, pulling you toward the average of your associations rather than toward your potential. The solution isn't just better networking, it's strategic alliance. It's finding others who share your purpose, who complement your strengths, who compensate for your weaknesses, and who elevate your thinking. When Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone formed their mastermind alliance, they created a publishing and insurance empire that touched millions of lives. Neither could have achieved this alone. Are you trying to achieve your goals in isolation? Are the minds you associate with most frequently elevating your thinking or limiting it? What would become possible if you created a strategic alliance with others who shared your vision and complemented your abilities? The mastermind principle isn't optional for extraordinary achievement, it's essential. Are you ready to stop struggling alone and harness its transformative power? Anyone can take action when inspiration is high. Anyone can move forward when the path is clear. The separation between average and extraordinary happens when the initial excitement fades, when obstacles emerge, when the path forward disappears into fog. Napoleon Hill studied thousands of success stories and thousands of failures. He discovered that the successful weren't necessarily more talented, more educated, or more fortunate than the failures. What separated them was a single quality: the capacity to persist long after others had quit. Consider the story of Harland Sanders. At age 65, his only income was a $105 monthly Social Security check. His restaurant had failed after a new interstate highway diverted traffic away from his location. Rather than accepting defeat, he began traveling across America, sleeping in his car, cooking his chicken recipe for restaurant owners. He faced 1,009 rejections before finding his first partner. Today, we know his persistence as Kentucky Fried Chicken. Most people abandon their goals at the first sign of resistance. They interpret temporary defeat as permanent failure. They see obstacles as evidence that they're on the wrong path, rather than tests of their commitment to the right path. This tendency to quit prematurely guarantees that their potential remains forever unrealized. The most dangerous moment in any worthwhile pursuit is what Hill called the test period. When you've invested significant effort but haven't yet seen meaningful results. This is precisely when most people abandon their goals, often just steps away from breakthrough. They fail to recognize that achievement follows a natural law. Effort compounds over time rather than producing immediate, proportional returns. Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen received 144 rejections from publishers for their book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Most would have quit after 10 rejections, convinced that their manuscript was worthless. Instead, they persisted. That book went on to launch a series that has sold over 500 million copies worldwide. Persistence isn't just about working hard. It's about maintaining your definite major purpose and burning desire through adversity. It's about facing rejection without allowing it to diminish your self-belief. It's about continuing forward movement when all external evidence suggests you should retreat. Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, was rejected by banks 242 times while seeking funding. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. Their persistence wasn't based on blind optimism, it was based on unshakable belief in their vision. Despite temporary evidence to the contrary, this quality of persistence rewires your subconscious mind. Each time you push through resistance rather than retreating from it, you communicate to your deeper self that your commitment is non-negotiable. Over time, this steadfastness transforms your identity from someone who tries things to someone who achieves things no matter what stands in the way. When have you given up on something important because the path became difficult? What might have happened if you had persisted just a little longer? Are you willing to develop the kind of persistence that doesn't recognize the possibility of permanent failure, only temporary setback? The greatest achievers aren't those who never fail. They're those who refuse to accept failure as the final verdict. Will you join their ranks? The most powerful force for achievement isn't physical, it's sexual energy, redirected toward your definite purpose. This is perhaps Napoleon Hill's most controversial and least understood discovery. When Hill studied the most dynamic, creative, and persistent achievers, he noticed they all possessed an abundance of what he called sex energy. Not just the physical drive, but the creative, motivating force behind it. This energy, when properly channeled, becomes the most potent fuel for achievement in any field. Most people waste this creative power or express it only physically. They fail to recognize that the same energy that creates human life can be transmuted into the creation of art, business, innovation, and achievement. This ignorance leaves them operating at a fraction of their potential power. Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, Gandhi, and many other transformative figures throughout history practiced various forms of sexual transmutation, redirecting their procreative energy into their creative work. This wasn't about suppression, but about conscious channeling of humanity's most powerful creative force. Nikola Tesla deliberately practiced celibacy to redirect his sexual energy into his inventions. He believed this practice enhanced his creative power and mental clarity. Whether you agree with his specific approach or not, his 700 patents and revolutionary contributions to modern technology suggest there was something to his theory. This principle explains why many people experience surges of creativity, productivity, and drive when they're channeling their energy toward a passionate pursuit rather than dispersing it. It's why entrepreneurs often report feeling a similar rush from building their business as they do from romantic conquest. It's the same energy, redirected. Hill wasn't suggesting asceticism or denial. He was pointing to a higher, more productive expression of this foundational energy. When your physical, emotional, and creative energies are aligned toward your definite major purpose, you access a level of drive and persistence unavailable to those who haven't learned this transmutation. The practical application is straightforward. Redirect the mental and emotional energy you typically invest in sexual thoughts or pursuits toward your most important goals. Use that same intensity of desire, that same creative imagination, that same persistence to pursue your purpose. Steve Jobs, known for his intense focus and creative drive, often spoke about channeling his energy into his work at Apple. His creative output, transforming multiple industries, demonstrates what's possible when this principle is applied. Are you dispersing your creative energy randomly, or are you consciously directing it toward your most important goals? What would change if you approached your purpose with the same intensity, imagination, and desire that naturally arises in romantic pursuit? This transmutation of energy isn't mystical, it's a practical redistribution of your most powerful creative force. When you master it, you access a reservoir of motivation, creativity, and persistence that makes willpower irrelevant. The greatest minds in history are available to you right now as mentors, guides, and advisors if you know how to access them. Napoleon Hill developed what he called his invisible counselor's technique, a method of tapping into the collective wisdom of history's greatest thinkers through directed imagination. Each night before sleep, Hill would conduct an imaginary council meeting with figures like Edison, Ford, Carnegie, Lincoln, and others, posing his most challenging problems to this assembly of genius. Most people dismiss this as mere fantasy, but Hill was accessing something profound, the ability of the human mind to solve problems through imaginative role, by asking himself, what would Edison do in this situation? Or how would Carnegie approach this challenge? Hill was forcing his mind to break out of conventional thinking patterns and access new perspectives. When facing a difficult decision, Dwight D. Eisenhower would empty his pocket and fling its contents across his desk. As they scattered, he'd imagine these were all the aspects of his problem, now visible before him. This mental technique, externalizing the problem through imagination, allowed him to see solutions that remained hidden when approaching the challenge directly. Your imagination is not childish fantasy, it's your most powerful faculty for transcending your current limitations. Einstein claimed, imagination is more important than knowledge, because knowledge is limited to what is already known, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. Walt Disney used a three-room creative process he called dreamer, realist, and critic. He would physically move between rooms, adopting different thinking modes in each. In the dreamer room, nothing was impossible. In the realist room, he figured out how to implement these dreams. In the critic room, he identified and solved potential problems. This wasn't just a quirk, it was a sophisticated use of imagination to access different cognitive resources. You can access this same power by creating your own council of invisible advisors, historical figures, mentors, even archetypal characters who represent different aspects of wisdom. When you face a challenge, bring it before this council. Ask each advisor for their perspective. Let your imagination fully engage with their responses. This technique works because it bypasses your conscious limiting beliefs and accesses the vast creative resources of your subconscious mind. By imagining different perspectives, you free yourself from the prison of your current thinking. Abraham Lincoln, during the darkest days of the Civil War, would ask himself, what would Washington do? This wasn't just a rhetorical question, it was a deliberate technique to access wisdom beyond his immediate perspective. Are you limiting yourself to your current knowledge and viewpoint? What would become possible if you regularly consulted with the greatest minds in history through the power of directed imagination? Who would you include in your council of invisible advisors? This technique isn't escapism, it's a sophisticated form of problem solving, used by some of history's greatest achievers. Will you continue facing life's challenges with limited perspective, or will you access this extraordinary faculty that already exists within your mind? The moment has arrived. Everything you've read converges into a single, inescapable truth. The prison you've felt trapped in exists only in your mind. And the key to your freedom has been in your possession all along. Napoleon Hill's discoveries reveal that achievement isn't about forcing yourself to take action through willpower. It's about reconditioning your mind so completely that extraordinary action becomes your natural state. When your conscious goals, your subconscious programming, and your burning desire align perfectly, achievement becomes who you are, not just what you do. The transformation begins with a decision so definite, so absolute, that it cuts off all other possibilities. From this moment forward, will you continue blaming insufficient willpower for your unfulfilled potential? Or will you take complete command of your thought patterns, installing new dominant ideas that make achievement inevitable? The choice you make in this moment will echo through every remaining day of your life. It will determine whether you remain trapped in the familiar patterns that have produced your current results, or whether you step into a new reality where your deepest aspirations become your daily experience. Those who truly understand Hill's principles don't need to force themselves to pursue their goals. They've aligned their internal programming so perfectly that they're magnetically drawn toward achievement. Like water flowing downhill, they move naturally toward their purpose, generating power through that movement rather than exhausting it. What separates those who actually transform their lives from those who merely read about transformation? Implementation, immediate, consistent, persistent implementation. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but right now, in the midst of whatever circumstances currently exist. Andrew Carnegie was working 12-hour shifts in a cotton factory at age 13. He had every reason to accept limitation. Instead, he made a decision to transform his reality through the power of his mind. By age 30, he was on his way to becoming the richest man in the world. His circumstances didn't determine his destiny. His dominant thoughts did. Your future is being shaped right now by the thoughts you're choosing to entertain. Every idea you accept as truth, every belief you allow to take root, every mental pattern you reinforce through repetition, these are creating the blueprint that your life will inevitably follow. This is the most important moment of your life, because it's the moment you can choose to fundamentally alter your mental patterns. Will you continue accepting thoughts of limitation, doubt, and mediocrity, or will you install new dominant ideas of possibility, certainty, and extraordinary achievement? The principles you've discovered aren't theories, they're laws as reliable as gravity. They work with absolute precision whether you believe in them or not, whether you use them consciously or not. The only question is whether they'll work for you or against you. The transformation is available now. Not through wishing, not through temporary motivation, but through the deliberate, consistent reprogramming of your mental patterns until achievement becomes your default state. What will you choose? To continue drifting with the current of old habits, or to seize the rudder of your mind with both hands and steer deliberately toward your highest vision? The decision is yours. Make it now.